What's up, everybody? I am Terry Griffin. We're here with another episode of the Entrepreneur Experience podcast. I'm gonna just tell you now, like, share, subscribe. You're watching this right now for a reason. And if you're watching this and not subscribe to the channel, then you're going to miss out on all the other greatness that I put out if you don't subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you don't subscribe, you're just a hater. And you're not a hater, so I know you're going to subscribe. So cool. I appreciate that. I have another special guest with me here. Listen, let me tell you how you okay. Wait.
You get the story?
Introduce yourself. Just introduce yourself to the people first before I start going on my little soliloquy.
Okay. I'm Mai. I'm also a podcast host of the Wonderland Effect. Um, I also work for a corporate job, and I'm a whole lot of more underneath that umbrella, but we're just going to keep it like that.
Podcaster,
Yes.
corporate. Okay. So, selfishly, let me just tell you this story. I'm like, okay, my event is coming up. Who has podcasts here that I can be on? And I seen someone post you, and I was like, ooh, let me try to get on her podcast. And then I was like, so I can kind of talk about my event and then use clips to promote myself. And so then I hit you up. And then you accepted me to be on your podcast. So I appreciate you for letting me be on your podcast. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. So that was my little selfish story of coming to your podcast. But I've been seeing you a lot, social media, podcasting. What started you on this journey?
Oh, that's a loaded question. It was pretty much when I was younger, like growing up, I didn't really have the ability or the freedom to say what I wanted. So I was super quiet.
Okay.
I did a lot of things that outgoing individuals would do, but I was still really introvert. And then I want to say, like, when I graduated high school, went to college, I started hanging out with more people that were a lot more vocal and involved in the culture.
Yeah.
So I started doing mentorships in like hospitals and meeting different people and talking to different people. And I've tried everything. It was just nothing stuck but a podcast. And I thought I was going to be a doctor. I thought I was going to be a teacher, which I did teach for some time. I did work in a hospital. Like I tried out all these things, but podcasting was the thing that I went the hardest for.
Okay.
It was me in my living room. And I just woke up one day. I was like, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm just going to do it because I want to talk about stuff. I want to meet new people. And I want to do it on a stage,
Yeah.
but not a huge stage. So this is pretty
So
much
you
the
wouldn't take
smallest.
the huge stage?
I was doing big stages for a while. I was doing a lot of women's events, speaking at a lot of women's events. I was doing a lot of coaching with people, but it's overwhelming mentally and emotionally.
Okay.
And it's so much easier. And I wish people would talk about this more. It's so much easier to speak to people than to run a podcast. It's very different communication forms.
Why do you think it's easier? Because it's like people have stage fright, right? So it's like you're saying that it's easier to be in front of a crowd and speak to people than it is to be in front of these cameras?
Not necessarily, but active listening is so different than you have a speech and you're speaking to a ton of people.
Okay.
Whereas this is transactional. Conversation has to be between both of us. It can't just be you speaking to me and then I'm listening. And when you involve that, a lot of people don't have that form of communication as their strength. So it is a bit harder. It's a totally different form of communication. And if I would have known that when I started my podcast, I probably would have taken the time that I'm, to do stuff that I'm doing now, which is reaching out, being in the entrepreneur club, being like I enrolled in communication courses so I can speak and become better at speaking and communicating with people or understanding how to get off of my crutch words. Like.
It's you know what? I'm actually happy that you said that because we were just talking about that. It's like being able to have a conversation with someone on a continuous basis with one person to where it's not no like dead pauses like okay, what am I going to say next, right? Everybody is not a conversationalist. And so sometimes it can be really hard to do podcasts with someone. So let me ask you this: have you ever interviewed someone that was like just hella dry, and it was just like, okay, I'm trying to make this conversation go, but you're like one word answering me or anything like that.
Yeah. In those instances, like you're really good at, comical relief. That's where you would need that. That's where you would need that skill
Okay.
because once you make somebody laugh, they feel more comfortable around you
Yeah.
and they are more likely to share what's going on with them.
So if someone is okay, let's say someone right now watching us and they are like, I really want to start a podcast, but I'm just scared, right? What is like something that you would tell them to like encourage them to go? But then like what's a skill that they can use that can really help them build?
When it comes to podcasting,
Yeah.
I think if you want to start a podcast, one of the like fundamental things you should do is interview your family members.
Ooh, I like that.
Like get with the people that you're comfortable with and have these conversations so you ease yourself into these types of conversations and ask them, the people who are closest to you, how they feel about you as an interviewer or a podcast host, whatever it may be, because they'll give you the honest truth
Okay.
most of the time.
I like that. I like that. So in doing that, let's say, how do you have a guest? Let's say you may not really know the guest. What's your way of getting prepared for someone? Because I don't want my conversations as I'm growing my podcast to just be like question, 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 and it's just like that. I want it to be a natural conversation to flow. So, like, what are some things that you do to prepare for your episodes, your recordings, or with someone that you're about to have on your podcast?
Interaction. You want as much interaction with that person. It may not be physical, it could be just on their Instagram or their whatever social platform you have them on, but the more interaction you have with that person, the more you get to see how they are. Even if it's just a conversation on Instagram, conversation maybe, I don't know, on Facebook. I mean, ideally, if you can get them on the phone, that's good. Like that was one of the
So, a good phone conversation
yes
beforehand.
so you can see if that's a good fit for you. Like if you honestly don't know if that person's going to be a good fit for your platform, I would suggest having a conversation with them.
Okay. Do you turn down people?
Yes.
Yes. Why?
Yes. Either they don't fit my platform. Like I just had a 14-year-old girl kind of be pushed. I kind of told you a little bit outside of this that I've been getting a lot of people who are music related. So
Right.
a lot of artists come my way, a ton of them. They send their music and either it doesn't align with what I like because I'm not going to host anything I don't like.
For
You
sure.
want me to tell people to go listen to something that I don't even like, which is crazy. Or I just don't find it a fit for my platform.
Devil's advocate. What if it's something that you don't like, but other people do? Because music is very opinionated,
Mm-hmm.
and so I may not like the song, but maybe other people really do.
It just depends. I have to watch you, like, and how you move. Like, there has to be, because there's been a couple people, I don't necessarily like all of their music, but people do listen to it and they do call it for attention, which is another thing that I consider when I'm looking at someone is what is
Yeah.
your call for attention?
Because there's a lot of people who has music, and I just like, what is this? I'd be like, what? I don't even want to listen to it. But then also, we are influenced musically
Mm-hmm.
by like the hype of music.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, let's say you get an album, you listen to the album, you don't really, it's some songs you like on it, some you do, some you don't. But then like they take one of those songs and make it a single and it gets hyped. And could be a song that you didn't really like before,
Mm-hmm.
but now that you're hearing it more and stuff like that, then it's like, oh, okay, I actually like this song. It's cool now. So in doing that, I was just thinking like, damn, sometimes like we'll sleep on somebody or a song thinking that we don't like it, but it's just like we just don't really know it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also depends on your energy. Like, if I feel like you are rude, I'm probably not going to respond to you. Like I've had people where the energy is just super aggressive and like you need me on your show. Okay, first off, don't do that.
Wow.
Second of all, who are you? Like if I don't even know you, like why are you as a human being?
Right.
Don't do that. Like
Right.
just be a normal human and considerate and state what you need me to hear and don't do it in such a rude way. Like you never
Yeah.
know.
For sure.
I don't like to turn people down just for like nothing. It has to be a legit reason coming from me.
Yeah, right. As we're building our platforms, it really has to be to the level of to like, well, this ain't everybody can't be here.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just because you want to be on my platform, I mean I got to allow you to, right? We look at okay, let me ask you this. What are some of your favorite podcasts that you listen to?
Poor Minds. I like Lewis.
Poor Minds?
Yeah, Poor Minds.
Okay.
Lewis House is probably one of the well known, or Jay Shetty. For a long time, like Dr. Joe Dispenza, he doesn't really have a podcast, but he's a well known author.
Mm-hmm.
My focus was always mental health, self awareness, like manifestation, those kind of things. Those are things that I love personally.
Right.
So those are the people that I consumed on a daily basis. Trying to think about who else. Well, I mean, I follow your podcast. I follow my friend's podcast, basically. Yeah. And then I started looking at more content like of other podcasters to watch them.
And the reason I asked that is because as we're here, but as people look at upper podcasts, they look at I wouldn't say Breakfast Club is a podcast, but it's a form, right? Mm-hmm. It's a radio show, but everything is produced and put out as a podcast. But we look at the Breakfast Club or like Earn Your Leisure and different things like that. And people know they can't just hop on that podcast. They have to be at a certain level to get to there, right? They have to work their way up. And so my mind, the arrogance of myself is like, everybody can't be here.
They're not supposed to be.
Everybody can't just come on my podcast. You can't just be like, oh, T, like when you record and I'm about to just I want to be on there. And it's just like either like you don't fit the brand, the niche of what I'm talking about. And it's just like I would like treat me the same way. Like build yourself up. Like you need to start being more consistent what it is that you do before I just allow you just on here. And I want that level of respect for this here. And that's how I want it to be, because I believe I say this often, there is a very open market for us here in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of podcasts.
It's not a lot of podcasts, right? Especially none that's just popping. Oh. So this past week, I was paid to teach a class. And so I'm teaching about entrepreneurship, about social media, really. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of start talking about like podcasts. And I would just like name one podcast here in the Bay Area that you listen to. First, I had them name podcasts that they listen to. Then I'm like, name a podcast here from like the Bay, Northern California, that you just listen to. And they were just like, I don't know nobody. Mm-hmm. And so that can be discouraging to others, or that can be like to a hustler be like, yeah, that's opportunity.
Yeah, it's a wide
That's
market.
Me. It's an open market. I can take this shit over. How do you feel like about that?
Well, I knew it was something when I had people coming from like Santa Rosa to come see me. Like I don't have a huge following yet.
Right.
I'm still building myself, but even that, like people driving all the way from the Bay Area just to come and chat with me is a lot. So that just goes to show how much people don't get those opportunities out here and what we can do with it. But I think a lot of us don't really know how to spin it and make it educational or make it have a purpose. Because I mean, you're the only one that made me think about like, what do I want to do with my podcast besides it just be conversations between me and somebody else?
Yeah.
What do I want out of it long term? You never really think about that when you're starting your podcast. Like, what's the long term purpose behind it? You just think I'm gonna start a podcast.
Just start one. Like I think of like, what is it? Tonight's conversation.
Yep.
Like they've come out here, they'll rent out the Marriott, and they'll have hundreds of people there watching them. They're not from out here.
Nope.
But obviously when they come out here, they have people from out here to come to the experience what they have. So that means we have people here listening to podcasts. It's just we have to be the ones to take over that market here. And so my goal is just like, I just know that there's opportunity. Yeah. And if I can create the space or create the podcast that really get the people be like, oh, that's tight, or oh, I want to listen to that. Because shit, I want to travel. I want to be on the road. I want to go on tour with my podcast.
Yeah.
Listen, all three of us, okay? We are going. We're gonna go on a tour, and it's gonna be a live showing of all of us. The Entrepreneur Experience, Wonderland Effect, L3 Perspective. Like, we're all going on tour, and we gonna take this podcast and we can travel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and when I start something, I always think like bigger picture. What can we do? And then I always think of collaboration, because I know that I can't do it all on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also like we're growing, right? And so, like, you may have an audience, I may have an audience, but if we both put on this event together, and even if it's you bring 20 people, I bring 20 people, now we got 40 people here watching us.
Yeah.
Now I got 20 new people that ain't never even heard of me, that's watching me because I collaborated with you, and vice versa, right? Creating that win-win for us. And as you've been doing this, how has it been with you for like collaborations or working with people?
I love it. But I do want to touch bases on something you said previous.
Okay.
So I think we also have to address the elephant in the room. A lot of people are focused on podcasts like tonight's conversation because of what they talk about. A lot of people are focused on the love and relationships and how to get out of toxic relationships.
Yeah.
So that's why they're so big. Their niche is so primarily focused on relationships and coaching people out of that and being honest about it, that it makes it a commodity. Like, everybody wants to go and talk to them.
Yeah.
Because the way that they present themselves and how they've marketed themselves is genius. Like,
For sure.
It's you couldn't have put together a better cast and a better scenario than in a loveless generation of people that are fighting for love and trying to get away from toxic, but they love toxic. It's the perfect medium to this world. So, like,
I like what you said there.
As much as, we would love people to be more about entrepreneurship, they love love.
Yeah.
In the negative and the positive.
And the negative. People are messy.
Yep.
People are messy, like, for real. And people are nosy. And then people like to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the combination of it all. Like, as a marketer, someone who love marketing, social media, their content is interesting, right? You will see them live and somebody come up and ask a crazy ass question, and then the crowd go crazy, and then they answer it, and then drop mic, and then boom, tonight's conversation, right? So I look at that kind of stuff like that because it will make you be like, oh, like, that looks fun.
Mm-hmm.
But that also looks messy and drama, and to be like, oh, I want to see what that's like.
But people are comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
It's the excitement of being on their platform that gives them that comfortability.
For sure.
Now, if we could create that, which we definitely could, I think it'd be even bigger than that, because it'd be certain dynamics that you could really target.
Yeah.
Besides just the toxic relationship shit. Like, there's so many different people that have different skill sets that when you combine them, you can make something that they only talk about relationships. Here, we talk about business building, relationships, financial wealth, XYZ. You can make it a bigger platform, and especially in the Bay Area.
Yeah, for sure.
Just with the event that you threw, I was like, this is amazing. Like, we really didn't have nothing like that. And I've never been in anything like that.
Yeah. I definitely believe that there is, obviously, like, okay, next weekend coming up, they have Earn Your Leisure have their Invest Fest, right? 20,000 Black people are all about entrepreneurship. That's dope.
Yeah, it is.
That's amazing. So that let us know that there's space for us in creating and talking about, whether it's mindset or it's talking about, entrepreneurship or things like that. Like, people are there to listen. It's just like marketing ourselves, right? And so what are ways that you go about marketing yourself to build your brand? Or what are some things that you're implementing to brand yourself to become a bigger or more of a household name for yourself?
This is my area of work that I need to do. I will say that, because I think I'm picking up little pieces, but I can do more, and I know I can with branding myself. Like, nobody ever really explains, like, you are the face, you are the brand of your podcast. So I do very minimal marketing. I'm not going to lie. And a lot of it comes from the people that I've been interviewing. Their clout, their attention is what's been giving me promotions.
That's
So
good.
I will have the
That's a
clips
marketing strategy.
and they will do it and I tag them in it. My producers even told me to start tagging like Thizzler because I have a lot of people that are in these
the music,
platforms.
for sure.
So I just get a little timid because I'm like, what are they gonna say? Like, what if they really like put it up there? Like, what am I
Yeah.
gonna do? I don't really know. But I've taken a couple of risks and started doing that. They actually did repost like one of my clips. So there are certain things that I'm learning how to do from my own production company. But I mean, I want to learn more from different people, such as yourself or like different coaches that are experts in those fields. But I do know that that's my area of growth. Like, I need to do something other than just posting the picture and relying on them to do it.
For sure. Right. I mean, Dr. Phil grew off. I use this example. Dr. Phil became the household name he is because he grew off of Oprah's platform.
Mm.
So growing off of other people's audience is definitely a marketing strategy, right? But then, like you said, it can't be the only one, right? You want to start doing other stuff. So I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot. So like what's your social media like Instagram content like? What you doing? How you utilizing Instagram to grow your platform with content?
I haven't been.
Oh, you slacking. Come on now. Okay. Let's look. We about to do some live coaching right now because what? You just said you joined the Entrepreneur Members Club.
Good.
Shout out to EMC. But you can't be on there and then talk about your content. When the last time you posted?
Look, wait, y'all, on my personal page or my Wonderland page?
We about to.
I only did like one reel where it was like what I said I wanted to do. I've only done like one reel where it wasn't anybody being interviewed necessarily, but
okay, what page you want me to look at? Come on,
not on my personal. I haven't posted anything on there. The Wonderland Effect.
Okay, the Wonderland Effect. Let me make sure.
Page.
Yes, it is. Okay, 3 days ago.
Yeah.
3 days ago, you posted it.
It's not the content I want, though.
You said what?
It's not the content we talked about.
It's
not the education.
It's not. It's not. But you know, tell you what though. I mean, it's your podcast page, so therefore, obviously, you're posting clips from your podcast, right? So when you're thinking about this, or okay, let's talk. What more can you post besides clips from your podcast?
I want to do educational. Like I've written it down. I just haven't implemented it.
So like what ideas. Type of education?
Like 5 reasons I started my own podcast, or like 5 things you should know when you're starting your podcast.
So you want people to be able to come to you and get knowledge on how to start their podcast. I
want to be more educational.
Okay. So you said you written it down. So what's stopping you from recording?
I just haven't implemented it.
Okay, so when you gonna record?
Today.
I'm putting you on the spot.
I'm doing it today.
Today.
As soon as I get home, I'll post the video. This is the end of like.
This the end of the procrastination?
Yes.
Okay.
And I actually do have this, like tomorrow we are recording actual just for content. Like just random shit like me walking around so I could post it. And
all right.
Put educational behind it.
I like, you know what? One thing that I started to do so I can get more out there too. I actually do like the interview style stuff, like going to different events and interviewing people. That has worked. That content has worked really well for me. But then there's also like when I'm interviewing somebody, I got the mic up and I'm interviewing somebody, the other people that walk by, like, what are they doing?
Mm-hmm.
And then they just stopping and watching, right? It's really dope because again, I hate to say it, but like as dope as the Bay Area is, we're kind of behind because there's not many people do that, right? So we'll see this kind of stuff on social media, but we don't actually get to experience it.
Yeah.
So when you're at First Friday in Oakland and you're seeing somebody with a camera and a mic and they interviewing people, you like, oh, what are they doing? I want to be a part of that. Like content like that has really been helpful for me because then also people like, well, what's your Instagram? I want to follow it because I want to see the interview. So stuff like that can be helpful too. And it don't always have to be messy because I know some people that be messy with it, right? Because they like the drama, they like the fun. But then also some people like, you can still make it fun, educational. Like I've asked, so a question that I asked, I'm gonna put you on the spot too. Like, what are the 3 credit bureaus?
What is it? Equifax. Is it? I don't know.
Equifax is one.
TransUnion. What's the last one? I don't remember the last one.
Experian.
Okay.
But so like, I'll go out and I ask that question to people.
Yeah.
And it's educational, but then you get the people who just really don't know nothing. Somebody said Experian. Like Experian. I'm like, I'm not Experian, but Expedia. I'm like,
Okay.
Expedia.com? Like, no, fool, that is not it. But that can be funny. So I mean, figuring out ways to make your content educational but funny, right? We talked about this before. It's like we have to market to people's emotion.
Yeah.
And so we have to think about as we're branding, because branding is more than just the color scheme and logo. It's about how you make people feel. And so as we're putting out content, we have to think about, okay, how is this content, this post that I'm about to make, how is this going to make someone feel? So when you're putting out like your clips and your videos, does that go through your mind?
Yeah. So some of them, I had one that went on YouTube and went viral. A lot of people were like upset about what I said because I said that a lot of women, their heads are pumped up because of Instagram and the accessibility to blue checks. So a lot of women shame men for wanting to be normal. That shit went crazy. I had people telling me that I hated women and that they don't understand what I'm talking about. Why am I minding everybody else's business? But you're still commenting on my shit.
Commenting.
So
Controversy is nice. Is it, so you say post that was like a YouTube short?
mm-hmm.
You know what? I've never posted a YouTube short
You
before.
got to. You have to. They go crazy. I think my biggest one, like I said, that one got like 8,000 views in 20 minutes.
Damn.
And then I have another one that's going up right now. Is at 2,000 views. It's been a minute. It can either be slow or instant. And then TikTok too. I got one that just hit 10K, and it was just him talking about close friends, like somebody talking about close friends.
Okay.
So
you put me on game. I ain't never used it. I haven't. So I know it has to be under a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I struggle with creating content that's under a minute because I talk too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to get better at like making quicker sound bites that can be impactful, but still me, because like I said, I talk too much sometimes.
The easiest way is take the clips from your podcast, put it through Opus Clips, and then you get to see the clips and the timestamps, and then schedule it out on the scheduler. You forget that you even posting it.
Yeah. You know what? I rock with Opus Clip. That is definitely a app and a tool that I use. So do you just do Opus Clip, or do you actually watch your whole podcast? Like, do you sit and watch your own podcast?
I watch every episode. Okay. Completely. I might watch it like 3 times just to see. Well, I do it and I take notes, like things that I didn't like watching, like myself doing.
Okay.
It could be my body language. It could be something I said, a question I didn't feel like needed to be asked, somewhere I feel like I lacked, just so I can get better with every interview. And then I also like to see what was said, because sometimes I forget what we were talking about and how the actual conversation went. And it's just nice to hear it again.
Do you watch it before you post it, or you watch it after? Because my mind goes to like, okay, I'm going to watch my episode, but I'm going to watch it after I post it, because if I'm going to watch it 3 times, I need those views for my analytics.
Yeah. I do it both. So I'll watch it one time prior to uploading, and then when I upload it and set a date, I watch it maybe 3 or 4 times myself.
Okay.
And then I go through the clips. That's why I tell everybody who does Opus Clip, read your content.
Right.
Because I posted one that says something, it switched up the word job to dog, and it changed the whole thing. I was like, well, it's already posted.
It's already there.
Can't really do nothing about it.
Okay. Early in the beginning, you said corporate. What do you do?
I can't say it. We signed a non-disclosure.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you can't say what you do?
No, but I work for a very big company, an automotive company.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then we'll dwell on that. We'll move past that.
I was gonna say, you could ask me questions. I just can't tell you the company.
No, it's cool. So let me ask this as someone that has a 9 to 5 and that's also building a brand. What are some of the things that you struggle with on trying to do both? And then how do you overcome that?
I think at first it was finding my rhythm for recording because I
Okay,
was only doing one episode per day. And then somebody gave me advice, and he was like, "You can't do one episode a day. It has to be, you have to batch your episodes.
for sure.
Otherwise, you're going to be struggling the entire time." So once I figured out how to do that, like what days work best for me so that I'm not exhausted having these conversations, I have enough time to get ready. And I found like my day was Sunday
Yeah.
and Mondays. Those are typically where I like to keep it. And then the time slots that work best for me. And that's, I had to get real with people coming on the show.
Mm,
You cannot pick your time. These are my time slots that are available. This
I
is when
like
you can
that
come.
for sure.
Because when I let people pick their times, I'd have one at like 2 p.m. and one at like 10 p.m.
Yeah,
No, I have 3 hours. You got from 6 to 9 p.m. Which slide do you want?
for sure.
So people will either get with it or they
Are
won't.
they not? And then that goes back to like how people will treat you as far as the platform that you own, right?
Mhm.
Because if they ask one to get on the Breakfast Club, they're gonna get there at that time,
Yeah.
right? They're gonna be, oh, we start at 6 in the morning. They're
You're
gonna
gonna be
get
out
there
at
at
6
6
in
in
the
the morning.
morning.
They're not gonna be like, oh, I got this, I got that. So it's like, give me the same respect, right? Obviously, like my platform ain't big as theirs, but it's still like I'm getting there.
I
My
had to
goal is to
learn
be
that
there.
though.
Yeah, and so it's just like one thing I've learned. So I am always a fan of like mentorship
Mhm.
or studying the greats. And David Shands is somebody that I study and that I've worked with, right? And he records every Wednesday, and that's his days. And so like he record his episodes with him and Donnie, and then him interviewing other people.
Mhm.
He does that every Wednesday, and so it's just like he'll sit there record 3-4 episodes every Wednesday, and if you have to fly into him to his studio and you got to be there at these times. It ain't no, oh, I can only make it on a Tuesday. Then you can't be on here. Right.
Yeah.
And so I like that you said that you have to be, and this is just for anybody else that's watching, right? That's trying to build their platform. You have to set the boundary and the
Mhm.
standard because you can't always be flexible for just everybody because then, like you said, it ruin your day. Oh, I got somebody at 2, but then now what I'm gonna do for the next 5 hours until my next one is like, nah, this is the time that we got to do it. I'm shooting back to back to back. So I think that's very good advice for someone that's watching that's trying to balance that.
Mhm.
Um, so another thing is I want to ask you, like, do you think being niche specific is important as building a podcast, or do you think you can kind of be all over the place?
You need to find your lane.
Find your
It
lane.
might find you. Like like I told you before, I hate to admit it, but a lot of the people that I've had on the show are music artists, or they have a big following behind them
Right.
because either they've seen me work with somebody that they know, or they genuinely like my podcast. Like I've had a couple people who genuinely like they like what I push
Right.
out.
Right.
Um and I've been blessed with that, but I also have to think about what that means for my brand. Like that means that I need to have that kind of prestige when people come on. Like
For sure.
that needs to
For
be a
sure.
consistent theme throughout my whole podcast. I can't just have anybody sitting in that chair. Can't just look like anything on camera anymore. Like
Yeah.
you have to uphold the people you have. Like the collabs mean something.
For sure.
So that pretty much sums up like the whole how I run my podcast overall is worrying about that aspect of it. Like, yeah.
Okay. So in being niche specific, and you are kind of going down this lane of music artists, I so my mind goes to like, okay, I can you would you have a music artist on there? Would you be like, yeah, I don't really like your music? Would you be
I
honest
would do
like
it.
that? You would do
I
that?
would do it.
That'd be some drama.
Like
That'd be dope. That'd be a dope
I would
clickbait.
have to ask them like you don't mind me saying whatever I feel, right? Like this has to be an open conversation. You
sure.
can't be in your feelings about what I want to say. Because I've had a couple people, they're like, "Let me on the show." I'm like, I don't think you want to come on here.
Right.
Because you know how I record. I don't really care too much on censorship.
For sure.
I like to say what I want to say.
Yeah.
So I haven't had it yet, but I would definitely be open to it.
That'd be drama. So what if somebody trying to get buck with you? Like, man, me, you don't like my music.
See, we were talking about getting a security guard, but also like my producers are with the shit. Like they are with the shit for real.
sure.
So I would be careful. Like they're from the hood. They don't play
They don't
around.
play around.
No, and then they know people that know people. So I really necessarily wouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, you.
It's constructive criticism is kind of hard to take sometimes, right? But it's necessary. And some people will make music and they'll be like, they think that their music is really dope, right? But it's just not. And it's just one thing that I always just say. So I started off throwing parties.
Mm-hmm.
And in me starting off throwing parties, a lot of people used to come to me like, let me perform at your party. And I hate going to parties and you got this dude up here rapping and his song is hella weak and now you got him performing 3 songs. Don't nobody know the songs. Now the party is dead and it's hard to get it back alive.
Yeah.
I hate going to parties like that. So I've always made sure that I didn't have that because I wanted my experience to be good when people come. I want them to come back. But the problem with a lot of artists that I've seen is that they can't even get nobody to come watch them.
Yeah.
Like, how do you want to perform at my party and you can't even get people to come watch? You want to it's selfish for people because they just see like, oh, I can get in front of all of these people and perform, and try to get people to listen to my music, but I'm not adding any value because I'm not bringing nobody there. And so it's just like, how are you an artist and you can't even get 10 people to come watch you perform?
And you gotta vet the people you have on the show. Like I vet mine for a minute. I usually won't schedule them out unless like I've seen you do a lot of things and I really like what you're doing.
Yeah.
I probably would schedule you out like a week or 2 so I could just watch what you do. Because I like to watch and I like to look at numbers. Like that's what my background's in. So a lot of the research that I do is I'll go watch your other interviews that you've done. I will watch your reels, watch your music, see what kind of attention you call and how you fit in the industry overall. Because like even when I did Frisco Philly B, I already knew who he was. I already know the type of attention that he calls, but he has a very positive image.
Yeah.
A dude from the hood with a positive image. Like that's what he gives out. Now there's been a couple people like they are like in tabloids for the wrong reasons and like I wouldn't be opposed, but you got to be down for the conversation I want to have because I want to know why you did that.
I want to know what happened.
And you can't be like, no, I don't want to talk because that's going to be wild. Like I do have for certain conversations, I do have a form that they would have to fill out because you're not going to waste my money when we recorded this and now you don't want me to show it. Yep.
I mean, obviously, I'm a beginner, so therefore I don't know all of that. But I definitely like created like a Google Doc form to make people fill out before they are able to come on here. Because number one, like I just want to have a kind of a Rolodex in a sense of people that want to be on here, but then also going through that Rolodex and picking out the people that I actually want. Right? Because like I said, I don't want some people filled it out and I went and I looked at their stuff and I'm like, I wouldn't dare have you on my podcast. But it's also like, there sometimes it can be there's a thing of value versus like traction. And so it's like maybe someone don't have a lot of traction, but I can have them here and they can offer a lot of value. But as we are growing our brand, we want people that can have value, but also bring traction, right? We want more views. And then it's like, what's the point of us recording an episode if can't neither one of us get nobody to watch it, right? So it's just like, dang. And one of the questions I asked is like, do you even have 10 people that'll watch an episode with you on? Like, I want to know, like, do you have that? And so it's like, is that a conversation that you have when you're asking people to be on your podcast, or is just like, I'm gonna just
I study them, so
Just studying them.
like I can one that I did have, and I didn't know she was gonna call this much attention. It was Tashante McCoy. She is one of Stockton. Well, no, she's global now, but she's a criminal justice. Um, she studies cases where people were wrongfully accused,
Okay.
and it primarily focuses on African American people.
Hmm.
So she goes and lobbies that all over the world.
Yeah.
So she's not limited to one thing, but she's also a part of like some major foundations that are supporting women's missions and healing and very active in that kind of realm. So those were things that I knew about her. And then I got to hang out with her a few
Yeah.
times before she came on my podcast. But she's also friends with like super famous people. So originally when I had her on the show, she's like, everybody uses me for them. And I didn't want her on the show for that after hanging out with her a couple times. I'm not gonna lie, like the appeal was there.
For sure.
But once I got to know her, she had so much more value than just her celebrity friends.
Right.
She's an amazing person. Like she just, well, I can't say what would just happen because I'm about to have her on my show again. But she has such an amazing story from start to finish. It was one of my favorite conversations to have, and I can't wait for part 2.
Right.
But just that case in point, like you never know how special somebody is until you either sit down and talk with them or you study them enough to know what they're doing.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily, just because they don't have, like you said, they don't have like 1 million followers, doesn't mean that they can't call the attention.
Yeah.
Because she's gotten almost the double the amount of views for some of the people that have clout.
That you have clout. Yeah.
It's crazy. And these are people that don't know her. But because of what she said, I was able to push it out on TikTok and have it damn near do numbers. I think she got 2K on our first clip that I posted on TikTok. And
Yeah.
even on YouTube, her shorts go crazy because of the content that she provided.
The content that she's providing. The value, right?
Yeah.
The value is very important. What is a piece of advice? So I'm about to start a podcast. Someone's here, they're watching, they're about to start a podcast. Give me like a roadblock. Okay. We all have roadblocks.
Mm-hmm.
What's a roadblock you faced as an entrepreneur, and how did you overcome it?
I don't think it would apply to men. I think it'd be more to women. Like when you're a woman, they want you to sell your sexuality. So being able to say no to a lot of that, like even if you go back to my podcast, you could see where I started to say no. Like I cleaned up what I didn't like and I started doing things that I did like. So as long as you're able to stay true to you and remember that the podcast is you, it's not nobody else.
Yeah.
You can't lose that. Once you lose that and you start trying to do shit because you want views, that's when you lose the authenticity of what you started it for.
Okay.
So people watch it for you. They don't really watch it for anything else.
So as I'm kind of glad you brought that up. As a woman that's in this industry dealing with artists that started their podcast, is it difficult because like do a lot of men like hit on you or come at you differently? Yeah.
You got to remember a lot of men don't get heard.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting on this couch, this woman you never met, and I'm visually appealing. You tell me about your life, and I will let you talk about it all throughout the session, and we will end our conversation there. I have people still hitting me up to this day talking about, can I talk to you again? I can't wait to see you. Like, I had to tell somebody, you're not in love with me. You're in love with being heard.
Right.
You're in love with the conversation that was provided. This is like my job. So I did my job, maybe a little too well, but I never like overly exert friendliness to where it's misunderstood. It's literally same conversation that I have with everybody else. Yeah. So that's what the problem is. Men like to be heard.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask this, and this probably be like the last question. Big picture, big goal. What is the future for you? What does that look like? What is happening? What you have coming up? Like, what are you doing? What can we expect?
I just got like really big chills. Overall, like my end game is to have my own TED Talk. Like I want to be on TED Talk.
Me too.
Like I want to talk about manifestation because that was the basis behind my podcast. And every step of the way is something that I wanted. I've said it out loud and it's happening in mysterious ways. Like things that I could never, even meeting you, finally getting you on my podcast. Like we had been trying for so long, and then
Mhm.
when it happened right before your event. I end up going to your event, end up learning all these things, end up in this whole different realm, but
Clip
still in the
that.
same way.
Learning all these things because you came to my event. For sure, going to post
Yeah.
that.
It's the truth.
No, yeah.
It's the truth. You put me in a lot of places that I wanted to be in for so long, but one conversation with you and I was able to enjoy that. And the challenge is what really did it. When you said, I'm going to challenge you. If you don't come, I'm calling you out. I was like, okay, can't do that. We don't do
Right,
that.
right.
So, and it ended up being one of the best events I've ever been to.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So as a podcaster, do you release your episodes every week, or what's your release? How you doing that? Because, and I'm only asking you this because I want, number one, for somebody that's watching to learn, but then also I want people to be able to catch you.
Mm.
So like, when do you have a certain time or a certain day that you
Yes.
release?
Sundays at 7 p.m. So I batch so much content. I have an overload.
Okay.
So I've had it scheduled out all the way till September.
Okay.
I'm probably going to be, I think I have enough to do all the way till December.
Okay.
So
Sundays at 7, and then tell the
YouTube.
people where they can find you.
You can find me on YouTube at The Wonderland Effect, or on Instagram at The Wonderland Effect. Either way, subscribe, follow. You can find the episodes, the clips on TikTok as well. But that's just my full name. I think that's it. Yeah,
So the Wonderland Effect, why that name?
because that's what I feel about life. Like life is a wonderland. Like you don't really know which way you're gonna go. You kind of just gotta wander a little bit.
Gotta wander along. Okay, cool. So Instagram, YouTube, the Wonderland Effect. They can find you.
Mm-hmm.
Catch your new episodes every Sunday at 7. Like, I don't even have a release date of when I'm gonna drop mine. I'm gonna plan it out. I'm thinking every Mondays
Mm-hmm.
to start the beginning of the week off, but I'm not sure yet. But I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna learn. I'm
You should
gonna
get
learn.
it.
Listen, I'm building this plane as I'm flying it.
Batch first, release
Oh, for
after.
sure.
That was like my worst thing was releasing episodes one by one.
One by one. So batch first, release after.
Yep.
Good. Okay. Well, I like to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate your time. I don't know if you know, but like I'm an observer and I learn from watching. So I've like watched some of your episodes, sat on a couch with you, had conversations with you, and like I'm learning. I take notes, and so like I've learned some things from watching you. So I appreciate you for allowing me on your platform, but then also like being consistent in what it is that you're doing, because I strive to be that. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you. And y'all, again, we're here. The Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Like, share, subscribe. Again, if you're watching this for a reason. So you might as well hit that subscribe button. And catch us next time. We'll see you later. Peace.